We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including a lot more NHL free agent signings. Day 2 of free agency hasn't been as busy as day 1, but there's still a lot to go over. Plus, in the trade rumor front, we've got lots of teams we're looking at today, including Toronto, Ottawa, Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Vancouver, and Buffalo. Plus, we actually have some waiver wire activity, and we had a trade to discuss from earlier today as well. A lot more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here today. Let's kick things off in case you missed it earlier with a small prospect trade that happened earlier today between the Sharks and the Devils, with the San Jose Sharks trading 23-year-old Thomas Bordeleau to New Jersey for 25-year-old Shane Bowers. So interesting trade. I think both players could benefit from a fresh start. Bowers will certainly go to the, I guess you could say, the weaker, less deep team of the Sharks. Maybe he'll get more of an NHL chance. Bordeleau goes to another team, which obviously is, has more competition, but I do wonder if a fresh start really what he was needed. When he was drafted, he was kind of high, considered a pretty good prospect. He went to the University of Michigan for a couple of years and hasn't really gotten a ton of opportunity in San Jose. Injuries, I think, played a small role here, but we'll see what happens. There is a small connection as well between Bordeleau and GM Tom Fitzgerald. Gerald did play with Bordeleau's dad, Sebastian Bordeleau, and actually assisted on his very first NHL goal. So I'm sure that they obviously probably know each other a little bit, but not that that matters too much. But Fitzgerald getting another young player to come into the organization, somebody he's familiar with. So to me, a pretty decent trade, low risk on both sides. If it doesn't work out, it's really not a huge deal either way. A whole bunch of signings here today, so let's jump into this. It's going to take a little bit. The Edmonton Oilers finally get a few signings after having a little bit of a mass exodus. One came out pretty late last night. The Edmonton Oilers signed former Calgary Flame and Washington Capital Andrew Mangiapane. He should be hopefully a good scoring winger for them. Gets a 2-year contract for Edmonton at $3.6 million. They also signed Curtis Lazar. Lazar, of course, was an Edmonton Oil King during his junior career where he had a ton of success. Was a first-round pick to Ottawa. Had high hopes to be a bigger, higher profile player, but has kind of carved out a decent career for himself, being more of a bottom 6, fourth line type of player. So Lazar will go back to Edmonton, except where he has lots of familiarity, and we'll see what happens. A 1-year deal at league minimum, so not really anything complicated or expensive or anything of that nature, but Mangiapane will be given probably every opportunity to play a top 6 role. I suspect most likely on a line with Leon Draisaitl. A bunch of other signings here today as well. The Pittsburgh Penguins signed a few players, including Anthony Mantha and Raphael Harvey-Pinard, formerly of the Montreal Canadiens, who was let go. Harvey-Pinard's contract's a 1-year, 2-way deal, $525K total guarantee, so a bit of a higher American Hockey League salary from that front. Mantha is a 1-year deal with some bonuses in there, and he can earn, I think it's $2.5 million. Mantha, of course, missed a ton of time last year, so he qualifies for that type of contract. We had the Washington Capitals signed a bunch of players as well, including Calle Rosen and Graham Clark to 1-year deals. Louis Belpedio gets a 2-year. The Ottawa Senators signed a bunch of players primarily for their minor league system, but I think some guys that will get at least one's going to get a chance, and that's Arthur Kaliev. Kaliev, of course, was originally a Los Angeles Kings draft pick. Had a couple of decent seasons, fell out of favor. Last year, he was kind of looked upon as being a make-or-break season. Ended up on waivers, went to the Rangers, had a big injury as well earlier in the campaign. And yeah, he ended up not getting qualified by New York, became a free agent. And of course, another player with a connection to Steve Staios, the GM and owner Michael Andlauer. Kaliev played his junior hockey for the Hamilton Bulldogs, where Andlauer was the owner and Staios was the manager and president. So certainly a player there, a lot of familiarity with. There was some chatter around Sens, fan base that maybe he would end up there last year, but he ended up going to the Rangers instead. But now he ends up there on a new opportunity. He is a player that could be lethal on the power play. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to get a big role, but I think he's a low-risk guy for them to bring in and have a chance to maybe carve out an opportunity, especially if they run into any injuries. They bring back Hayden Hodgson as well on a 1-year deal. He was good for their Belleville team. Was a call-up, got a handful of games in with the big clubs last year as well. The Senators also signed Hunter Shepard as a 29-year-old goaltender, formerly of the Capitals organization, two-time Calder Cup champion. A really good American Hockey League goaltender. We'll see what that does for their organizational depth. It certainly helps out. I suspect at this point that Shepard and Mads Søgaard will likely be the goalie tandem in Belleville, with Allmark and Marilainen being at the NHL level. Now, they've also signed another goalie as well, and this one could be a really good piece for the future. It's hard to say because goalies take so long to develop, but they've signed Jackson Parsons, who was a CHL goaltender of the year last year for the Kitchener Rangers. Not only was he the tops in the OHL, but he also won the CHL goalie of the year. Was also the Overager of the Year award in junior hockey as well. As also an Ottawa native, so for him, he gets to sign with his hometown team. He was invited to development camp and then signs an ELC. Now, there previously was some reports that he was going to be going to the NCAA. So clearly things have changed with that. But Jackson Parsons, to me, looks like a pretty decent goalie prospect. Hard to say how things will go. Like I said, he's from the area. He just won a major award in junior hockey. Why not give him a chance? So they are certainly building out their organizational depth in the goaltending department here as of late. A bunch of other signings as well. The Lightning, this one's a little bit longer. They've signed Jacob Pelletier, former Flame, former Flyer, 3-year contract. The first year is a 2-way deal. Years 2 and 3 are 1-way, with a salary going from $850 in year 2 to $900K in year 3. So that should be a potentially low-risk signing for Pelletier, who can hopefully fit in down there in Tampa. The last time they took an undersized forward front of the Flames organization, it seems to me it worked out pretty good. In case you don't know what I'm referring to, that turned out to be Marty St. Louis way back in the day. The Los Angeles Kings have signed 24-year-old Group 6 unrestricted free agent Samuel Bolduc, former New York Islander, so he gets a short-term contract. He'll be in the minor league system most likely. The Sharks have signed Pavel Regenda to a 1-year, 2-way deal. He also was a Group 6 UFA. The Jets have signed a bunch of players today, including Cale Clegg, Philip DiGiuseppe, and Walker Dewar and Samuel Fagemo, all getting 1-year, 2-way deals. The Jets have also announced they've signed Gus Nyquist, the veteran NHLer, comes in on a 1-year contract at $3.25 million. The Minnesota Wild have signed veteran goaltender Cal Peterson. Of course, Peterson has been mostly in the minors. He gets a 1-year, 1-way contract at $775. Obviously, that can be fully buried in the minors if things don't work out, but he's there basically to give a little extra competition in their organizational depth to see if Jesper Wallstedt is going to be ready for full-time duty or not. And if he has to go to Iowa, that's an area that he's from, actually. So either way, he gets back to the NHL or gets to play close to home. Looking at that as a win, either aspect. The Wild also signed Tyler Pitlick to a 2-year, 2-way contract. The Buffalo Sabres grabbed defenseman Zach Jones out of the Rangers organization, who was not qualified. He gets a 1-year contract, $900K to NHL level, $550 to American Hockey League level, so it's a 2-way deal. The Maple Leafs have signed another veteran bottom sixer, Vinny Lettieri. He gets a 1-year contract at league minimum. The Red Wings have signed Elmer Soderblom. He gets a 2-year deal, $1.125 million. The Devils have re-signed Cody Glass. He gets a 2-year contract at $2.5 million. The Canucks bring in UFA defenseman Pierre-Olivier Joseph, formerly of a few teams, Blues and Penguins. Last year's where he split 1-year league minimum. The Red Wings get former Jet Mason Appleton, 2 years at $2.9 million. And then a couple of newer ones that just came out here. The Flames have signed Morgan Frost, a 2-year deal at $4.375. So obviously he and Joel Farabee came over from the Flyers last year in a pretty decent trade. The Blues get Pius Suter, so he's gone from Vancouver. Gets a 2-year contract at $4.125 million. And then New York Islanders have landed one of the top free agents outside of the league, getting top KHL free agent Maxim Shabonov gets a 1-year ELC. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams, including the Rangers and the Flyers, very interested in this KHL free agent. So it looks like a pretty skilled forward here. Put up a good point total, almost point per game last year in the KHL. So a nice get there for the Islanders. They've also signed Emil Heineman, of course, who came over in the Noah Dobson trade. He gets a 2-year extension as well with the Islanders. Now, as I mentioned, a bunch of other rumors around the NHL, a bunch of stuff here. One, we know that we have a waiver wire activity actually as well. Nick Leddy, the St. Louis Blues, is on waivers. The belief is the St. Louis Blues have been trying to trade Leddy, but with no success. Some teams were interested, but not to the point that they could get a deal done. St. Louis is trying this as another method, and they figure, you know what, even if they don't, even if he doesn't get picked up, if he clears waivers, maybe a team will take him because they can be directly assigned to the American Hockey League roster instead of the NHL roster. But I mean, that's where we're in the offseason. I don't know that that's really going to make a difference to teams right now. They'd probably want to get him in training camp and see and put him through waivers on our own, because really the offseason stuff is it's a unique time. You don't really see waivers in July. So I doubt he gets picked up. You never know, but doubtful. Obviously, Nick Leddy is another defenseman, ran into some injuries, and the Blues would rather move on. I know they likely want to extend Cam Fowler, and they've been in on a variety of other defensemen, trying to find ways to upgrade here. So Nick Leddy is 100% available, either through the waiver wire or via trade, if teams want to inquire with the Blues. Now, speaking of defensemen, we know that Rasmus Andersson's been a hot commodity. The latest update as well, I believe it came from Dave Pagnotta, fourthperiod.com. A bunch of teams have been in a mixer that we've heard about, and some of them have even gone as far as fielding offers. So that includes the St. Louis Blues, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Ottawa Senators. Now, surprising about Ottawa, because you think after getting Jordan Spence and you get Nick Jensen recovering, and of course they've got Zub, and they've got Matt and Paolo signed. They're still sniffing around that market, and so far Rasmus Andersson has basically turned down everybody that the Flames have approached him about. Now with Vegas, Vegas has been in the mix as well, but the Flames have not liked their trade package enough to the point that they were willing to talk a contract with Andersson. We know that from what we've heard, it sounds like Andersson would like to go to Vegas. He would sign there, but they can't seem to come to terms on a contract. Now, I think Vegas might look at him as being a potential Alex Pietrangelo replacement, and so far, that's not really been something they've been able to figure out. But either way, the interesting part here, the most surprising team is Ottawa. And we do have reports from Ottawa sources now saying that they do believe that they continue to sniff around the right shot defenseman market. Obviously, they've been linked to Rasmus Andersson, and maybe that was more serious than a lot of us thought. I know I've seen their team name be brought up by most of the fourthperiod.com. Which didn't completely make sense to me, but there's some that think, you know what, maybe they don't have as much faith as you might think in the recovery of Nick Jensen, and how either A, how long he could be out for recovering from his surgery, or B, how effective he might be when he comes back. Is this going to really limit his mobility? Is he going to be, struggling to keep up with the level of play that he did before? The other thing is he's got 1 year on his contract, so looking long term, they probably want another right D anyways with experience beyond next season. So it's kind of tough to say. I know right now the fan base, this isn't coming from any insiders, but we know he's available, but the fan base seems to be trying to manifest the return of Erik Karlsson, and a lot of people seem to be ready for it. Now, of course, very different type of defenseman, still has a big cap hit with the Penguins, but we've heard that Kyle Dubas is not really too concerned about the Penguins' cap situation, and if they're going to move out veterans like Karlsson or Rust or Raquel, that they will eat salary. So I do wonder if they'll talk about it, considering how many other right D that they've kind of been looking into supposedly, and that are not necessarily the same style as Jensen. I do kind of wonder if there's any way. I mean, Daniel Alfredsson, of course, is a huge Karlsson fan, great friend of his on the coaching staff. Is there going to be any influence there? We kind of hear about this every once in a while, and it seems unlikely, but given what everything Ottawa has done with their cap space, it's not unreasonable to think that they couldn't do it. And I guess the main question is it in their best interest? And I guess we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments, but they're definitely sniffing around the right D market, even though they've picked one up. It sounds like they are interested in possibly finding another. we'll see about that, I guess, as time goes on. The Maple Leafs are still looking to make moves here, of course, still trying to figure out how to try to replace some of the offense that left behind from Mitch Marner. A couple of names that are out there on the trade market include David Kampf and Kalle Järnkrok. They are definitely very much open, trying to move those guys to free up some more money, to give them some more flexibility. The door is not closed on a return for Max Pacioretty. That's still something that's being discussed. It's hard to say if it happens or not, but I know it's not completely a no at this point, so we'll see what happens there. The Leafs are still kind of undergoing a lot of wait-and-see approach, and the free agent market is kind of held up a little bit too, waiting on Nick Ehlers. The belief is the Leafs and a few other teams have poked around, but it doesn't sound like the Leafs have really had a serious chance. It sounds like Carolina or Washington for Nick Ehlers, when that happens, but the Leafs are definitely trying to clear out some of those bottom six contracts that they're not overly fond of. The Edmonton Oilers have been linked as well to Isaac Howard, the former first rounder of the Lightning. That's rumored to be available because he will not sign with Tampa. So certainly there's been lots of rumors about them having trade talks. They haven't been able to quite figure it out yet, so I'm not sure exactly what's holding it up, if it's a prospect or a pick or something that the Lightning want in return. It's going to have to be at least a second-round pick. It's going to have to be something better than that. So we'll see what happens. But if the Oilers could land Howard, that could go a long ways here to helping them have another scoring winger. I mean, he has played enough college hockey that in theory he should be ready to step into the NHL. So we'll see on that front. Vancouver as well. Rick Dollywall's reporting that with what they've done, of course, they lost Pius Suter in free agency today, that the team is also considering trading Dakota Joshua. They've kind of soured on him. Of course, he had a big season, got a new contract, and then things took a step back last year. So his name is out there. They're considering moving him. It's not for sure thing that he's going to get moved, but as they try to find ways to make the team better, he's a name that they definitely have in play. And of course, one of the reasons originally they were been trying to do that was to sign Suter, and now that Suter's gone on free agency, they're going to have to turn their attention elsewhere. They might have to overpay a little bit, and some extra cap flexibility would probably go a long way to helping them do that. So we'll see. As I mentioned as well, the Penguins, it's not just Erik Karlsson that's out there. Brian Rust and Rickard Rakell very much in play as well. The Penguins, I do believe, are willing to eat some salary, and they are looking for futures on all of these players. They really are more concerned about down the road than they are about today. I don't think that the Penguins are going to be very good this year, and I think they're going to be one of the teams in the main teams that we're talking about when it comes to getting Gavin McKenna next year. And in Buffalo, Bo Byram continues to be the center of attention on what they're working on there, and his agent reportedly is working on an offer sheet because they don't want this to drag on too long. They would like for Byram to be sent to his new home and get settled and situated. And right now, the Sabres have yet to make a trade. They've had lots of inquiries, lots of conversations, but they've obviously not reached a point where they're happy to do a deal just yet. So clearly, they're getting a little bit impatient by the sounds of things, and teams are willing to overpay on a short-term contract through an offer sheet. So that's going to be an interesting situation to watch. It could be contentious. It could get a little bit nasty here, but the Sabres have a variety of things they're working on, and I really wonder how that Byram situation is going to work out. They seem to indicate if they got an offer sheet that they would match it, but I don't really know that really makes a lot of sense. They've made it pretty clear that he was going to be moved, and I don't really get the feeling he really wants to be there anyway. And if they match an offer sheet, then he's going to be there. They can't trade him for a while, so that gets really kind of complicated there as well. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out, but the Byram situation in Buffalo is worth monitoring for sure, and an offer sheet is not out of the question if things drag on too long as the agent tries to get this situation settled for their client. So that is all your NHL news and rumors here for today. Let me know your thoughts and everything to discuss here down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.